Welcome to the Superhero Sidekick Leadership Coaching Podcast with Joel Smith and Joe Baker. We're here to help you develop your superpowers. This is the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I'm Joel Smith.
I'm Joe Baker. We're not here to be the superhero. We just want to be your sidekick and help you along in building your business, building your not-for-profit. Let's help you grow it fast and really scale.
Be sure to check us out on Facebook and visit us at superherosidekick.com. Welcome to the Superhero Sidekick Coaching Podcast. I am Joel Smith with Joe Baker. Joe, what's going on today?
Hey, it's a good day to be alive.
It's a great day to be alive. Well, hey, if you have not listened to our previous podcast on the greatest tips for putting on a world-class event, you need to go listen to that first, because what Joe's going to talk about today is an extension to that. So just a quick review. We talked about really targeting fanatics, filling the room with fanatics. We talked about blowing the doors off by having a quality event. We talked about it being personal and relational so that we can connect with the people that we're really wanting to put the event on for. And then we really talked about taking care of ourselves and as well as just our family and the people that's involved, and just making sure that we're fresh and ready, and that we've positioned ourselves with the right people to do their jobs to keep us sane and focused on the event. So Joe, that was an excellent overview that you gave here. But today we're going to talk about the big ask. And so, geez, when you're having an event, you know, it stands to reason that you're having an event for a reason. There's a purpose behind it. And if you're in the fundraising world, it's to land some funds that are going to really be world-changing resources that's going to help people. So let's talk about that, Joe. Let's start by maybe just talking about the message. You know, what kind of a message do we need to have that's going to lead to a big ask?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you need to have a big ask. You've got to have a big mission. You have to have a big vision. And those are things that you want to approach with tremendous reverence and fear, and really be prayerful coming into, and really asking God, you know, what am I asking for? What am I calling people into? Because people want to be a part of your mission. They want to be a part of what you're doing, and they're hoping that, you know, you can invite them in and call them in, and then they can invest in you and get some of that excitement that you have. You know, when I started fundraising, I always felt like, wow, I was like, why would these people give to me? But I got to live a life that had all these great stories of like these lives changed, and that's why I sacrificed so much to build my organization. That's why I was willing to like live on a $3 per meal budget, and, you know, drive a Geo Metro that wouldn't go into reverse. And there's people out there that work in a business or work in a high-paying job, and that they don't have some of those same like satisfactions that I had by working in the nonprofit world. And by investing in, they access that, they could have some of that. And so as I began to learn, I was like, it's okay to invite people into the sacrifice, because I've sacrificed, and I believe I'm called to invite them in. I'm called to the mission.
Well, you know, and Joe, what you're talking about too really clicks with me when we're talking about, you know, an event. You know, there's lots of events out there. We're right now, we've just kicked off the college football season, you know, and so, you know, I got to watch the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Iowa State Cyclones play, you know, a few days ago, and it was the biggest game in the country.
Oh,
and
wow.
The Hawkeyes won. I have to throw that out there, but that's an event, and that the whole purpose of that event is entertainment. Okay, that's you go and you're entertained and you walk away and it's done. But what you're talking about is something different. What we're talking about here is a mission. So when we go to this event, that's just the beginning, because the real purpose is something bigger than that. It's something down the road that we're working toward. It's not just to be entertained for 3 hours and then walk away thinking, hey, that was a cool event. It's this event is going to be a world changer. It's going to do something big. And so when you talk about mission, that's what you mean, isn't it? It's like, this is not just an event that lasts that amount of time and you walk away and it's done. This is just the beginning.
Yeah. And so one of the aspects of creating this event that gets somebody who's driving to the event. There's a couple driving to your event. They have this conversation. They say, "Hey, honey, what are we going to give tonight?" They pick a number. Okay. Your mission for the event is to at least double that number. That's your mission. Okay. So the event needs to do that. It needs to have some dynamics to it that can actually get someone to look over their spouse and say, "Hey, let's go big this year. Let's take some risk. Like let's let it hurt a little bit, and to join Joe in his calling, in his mission." And so in the last talk, we talked about stacking the deck with a lot of big A-list speakers, bringing in a lot of people, where you have great speakers, but that doesn't mean that you have a 3-hour talking period either. You have A-list speakers, but you just give them a few minutes. But you don't let them just speak on anything. You actually want every speech pointing in the direction of what you're doing. And so I would curate every speech with every speaker. I wanted to know what they're talking on, and I wanted to work it out with them so that the whole event flow is building and increasing in intensity, and it's all pointing toward the same thing. You don't want to put on a conference. A conference really is kind of, we brought in all these, different minds on a subject, and they all had their own subject matter. No, you want an event where what everybody's going to say, and they're all pointing in the same direction. The other thing you want in your event is, since you're curating the speeches, you should spend time with each of your speakers so that it feels very much like family. When a speaker talks about you, they talk about you as though they know you, as though they've gotten to really spend time with you. And so for us, one of the prerequisites to speak at our events was we would fly you out to our headquarters, and I would spend some time with you in advance of the event. And so it wasn't like this was the first time we're meeting. Every single speaker I've talked to on the phone multiple times, I've been in their presence. Most of them have been rock climbing with. And so when Curate Cameron is at our event, he's sharing a story about this rock climb that we did together, because we had developed a relationship here in Colorado, and that was part of the deal. I mean, we paid more for it, but it's so worth it to make sure that every speech is curated and the whole thing feels like one cohesive family with one very clear and exciting inspirational mission. And so curate the event is the first point.
Yeah, I like that. So you have a term in here that you said, be intentional about the emotion arc. The emotion arc. What is that? I'm curious.
You want to think, I actually would graph this out, and you want to think about your evening. So since you're curating each speech, you actually want to think about, okay, well, when are people going to laugh? When are they going to cry? When are they going to reach over and squeeze the knee of their partner? It's those emotions that we carry, like in a good film, are not done randomly. They're done with a lot of intention. The film, actually, a great film, will actually plan out an emotion arc, and they'll think through, okay, this is when you're going to side stick or laugh. We want to think about that at our event. We want that laughter where people are falling out of a chair laughing. And then we want other times where it's this is where they really tear up, and they really have a deep inward look. And you want to look at those pieces and think about how those are building to a full-on climax where they're being asked. And it's so important to think like this, because remember, the mission is not just to put on an event. The mission is to double what they were planning to bring or planning to give on the way there. And really, we want, their hearts to just be open to what God's calling them to. And what opens their hearts is putting on an excellent event that clearly has everybody pointing toward the mission, and then there's a clear vision of what they're going to accomplish, and then an ask. And you want an emotional ask. You want an ask to come from the deep well within their heart. You don't just want a logical ask. You want an emotional, ask from their heart. It's their heart that we want. We want their heart fully engaged in our mission. That is the whole point.
Right. Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned a clear vision or a clear mission, and that kind of leads me to the next thing. So I've been to a lot of events, and it seems like some events lack a little bit of clarity. They maybe they're trying to hit too many points, or they're going in too many directions, and sometimes you kind of lose sight of what the main objective is. And I know you like to keep things simple when it comes to this. So how do we do that? If you're going to put on an event, you want to keep from getting sidetracked and really keep it honed. What is it that we need to focus in on that really keeps it simple?
Yeah, so you want like the ask to be very simple, tangible, and clear. You want it to be specific. And there's an interesting conversation about the difference between a charity called Bloodwater and a charity called Charity Water. Had you ever heard of Bloodwater, by the way?
Yeah, I think you've talked about it a little bit. Yep.
But before I talked about it before in our conversations, had you ever heard of it?
I think I heard of it, but I didn't really know anything about it until I talked to you.
Well, they were the leader in the building wells around the world space,
Hmm.
and they kind of had this idea of like there's a connection between clean water and HIV, and how we could cure a lot of diseases by providing clean water. Well, Bloodwater was did drilling wells, but they did all sorts of other things, hundreds of other projects, and they were really, I mean, this was the founders of Jars of Clay came out with it, and they did some amazing work, really created an awesome ministry. But their ask was very complex. It was very, it was very detailed, and it wasn't like they weren't thinking it through. It was a brilliant, mission. But Charity Water came on the scene, and Charity Water just said, spend this amount of money, you put a well in the ground. 100% of our money goes to the well. And suddenly the whole market shifted from Bloodwater to Charity Water, and Charity
Mm,
Water took over the market. And the reason for that is because they had a clear, simple, specific ask. And so that's what we want to find within what are we doing? And it's not like it's the product isn't just like, a well. The product is these beautiful children that now are healthy, and and you can show pictures of them, and you can make it very clear that this is how much money you invest to save a family, to save a town, to save a village. It's like very clear. This is how much
yeah.
money it costs to save a well. With Storks, we could very clearly articulate we want to launch buses, we want to do this specific thing. So it's usually good to have like, at the most like three things you're doing,
Hmm.
but all three should be pointing at the same product,
Well, I like
same
the
thing.
idea. I like the idea of, put a well in the ground. Everybody in their mind can picture that. You picture a ground with no well, and then you picture that same ground with a well, and then you think to yourself, boy, this is water for a lot of people. And it's simple,
Yes,
and it's it
simple.
didn't it didn't even require
Yep.
any really thought. So I like that. Um so let's talk about casting a vision that only you can cast. I think I've seen people cast visions that it felt like they were telling somebody else's story. But
Yeah.
you're saying here, just you know cast a vision only you can cast. What does that mean?
Yeah. So this is the role of the visionary leader, the
Hmm.
founder or the CEO. This is the role. So it's the job of the CEO. Like, I mean, they're gonna kind of crown the event where they're gonna tell everybody what we're gonna accomplish, and usually you want that to come right before your professional speaker makes the ask. But when I would do this, I'd have about a 7 to 9 minute speech. Sometimes I'd even turn it down to 5 minutes. But I would know that whole speech, you know, 2 or 3 months before the event, and I would be memorizing it literally every day. Every day I'd be rehearsing it with somebody, reading through a script. And in the weeks before, I would actually go and get massages. I'd like have a back massage, and I would listen to myself give the speech while I'm laying there. It's almost like meditating on the speech. And then when you walk up and give that speech, it is pure fun. There is no, like, you don't have to remember anything. Like, it's just you get all your jokes right, you get all the lines right, you can connect with people emotionally because you have it so well ingrained in you, and you're so ready for that moment. And so I can't stress enough that if you're going to put on a high quality event, the CEO needs to have a memorized, amazing, short presentation that articulates all the aspects of the event. It's kind of like that speech needs to start pulling everything in, like reminding everybody about why they're there and inspiring them toward that next stage of your event where you're going to make an ask. And that's like the final part where the whole emotion arc really needs to climax with your next presenter.
Yeah. So tell us about that. The big ask. This is what it comes down to. You're closing. You're there. It's the moment of truth.
Yeah. So I really believe that it's best to have a pro make the ask. Now, I'm totally equipped to make an ask, but there's something about it when the CEO makes the ask at an event. There's something that feels a little bit like, well, he's kind of funding his own salary too, you know? Whereas when you have somebody else there making the ask, it comes across as they're like Joe's buddy. When you have like Kirk Cameron or Bruce Wilkinson, like they're putting their stamp and their reputation on the line for Joe and for the organization, or for the CEO and for the organization. And that stamp of credibility it is so important. And I just think, like, I recommend having a quality person who really has made hundreds of asks before ask at an event like this, and every word of their speech is pre-written. You've talked them through it, they've rehearsed it with you, and that again needs to pull in everything. You want to pull in all the parts of your event with that speech, and remind everybody why we're there, what we're going to accomplish, what the mission is, and then make a very clear and simple specific ask through them. And oftentimes it's good for the CEO to be on the stage for that, for the CEO or the founder to be prayed for in the midst of that wise sage that you have making the ask. But it's a person of great reputation that is asking on behalf of for the organization is what I recommend.
Excellent. All right. Well, hey, this has been terrific, Joe. You've touched on a lot of really great things, and I know people would really gain from your wisdom. So, Joe, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can reach out to me at joe@superherosidekick.com. Come to our website, find me on Facebook. I'd love to just chat with you sometime. I don't charge by the minute. I'm not a lawyer, and so glad to just chat with you, see if I can help you with something, and see if it could be a fit. I have some other team members that could be a part of building whatever you're building as well. And so we coach and we train, and we're interested in helping you scale. So just reach out.
Excellent. All right. So, hey, if you're interested in also the next step to this, Joe's going to be talking about how to create a donation form and the expertise that goes into that. So we'll have another episode with that. So, hey, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Please connect with us through our Facebook page or superherosidekick.com. Give us comments and subscribe. Talk to you later. Have a great day.